You know what's funny is on YouTube, the worst video I ever made is actually my highest performing video.
That's what I'm saying. It's so crazy, right? Same thing with Instagram. And I bet this is true for most people. In fact, put it in the comments. All your short form videos that you didn't try to make good, they just happened. You're just like, I'm going to put this out there.
It took off.
It took off. And all the ones you spent hours scripting, doing all this stuff.
They sucked.
They suck.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why. It was just like, maybe that's the law of detachment. If you're too attached to the outcome, then it's not going to happen. But if you just like trust, know you're on the right path, the answers will reveal themselves. It's all good.
Just focus on the impact you could have on people.
That's it. Welcome back to the Create with Kate podcast. I'm really excited for this guest I have in the studio today. She is amazing. And we were connected through a mutual friend. And this girl is killing it with YouTube. Like, I've already learned so much from her, and we've only like just met. So much strategy, sales knowledge. And she's just a wonderful people person and also a mother and a believer. And so here we go. We have Erica on the podcast today.
Well, I'm excited to learn from you. So
And I'm excited to learn from you.
I don't know what I have to teach. I know sales. I know about sales.
You know about sales. You know about YouTube.
I
Girl, you know how to sell houses. Like,
And you know what's funny is oftentimes we don't know what our blessings or our superpower is, but other people can see it in us. And I think it's because we are the only ones who hear all of our own negativity and lies. And when you hear your own lies, what is a lie? A lie is a well-planned. What is an excuse? We hear our own lies and our own excuse, but what is an excuse? An excuse is a well-planned lie. When you tell yourself that lie over and over again, you have that same thought. It now becomes a belief system. But I'm sure you know this, beliefs are not fixed and they can be changed.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, how do you change a belief that's basically now a trauma? So I know this is one of the things that you definitely specialize in: identity, faith, reconciliation.
Yeah.
So first, I want to know, take us back to young Kate and what life looked like then for you.
How young is Kate?
Kate is 5.
5? Okay. So 5-year-old Kate was actually very shy, which I think would surprise a lot of people. When I was younger, I'd say up until about 13, I was just listening and absorbing like what everyone was doing, and I didn't really talk much. I was very quiet, very to myself, and I was just taking everything in. And I've always been fascinated with people. I also, I was born a redhead, and I hated that.
Really?
Yes, my entire life, I was like, I cannot wait till I get to a certain age so I can color my hair and not look this way anymore. It was because I was different, and people would always say stuff to me. Like, I remember this like so vividly, like being in the grocery store, like in the shopping cart, right? And oh, your hair is so beautiful, you know? And I was just like, oh, I hated it because to me it was different, and I wanted to be blonde and have blue eyes, and I just wanted to like look like the other girls. And it wasn't until honestly probably 8 years ago, like when I was like 30, that I finally just said, I think I'm going to embrace this hair color. So it's changed over the years. This is my natural color now. And I can show you a picture from when I was a little bit. It was like bright red. But yeah, I always hated that. So that was, the young me was shy, felt different. And yeah, I was just kind of taking things in, but always loved people, always like got along with everyone. And I loved to teach then too. I would pretend I was a teacher all the time.
And you obviously still like to teach right now.
Oh, I love that. That's why I love coaching.
Yeah.
I think for many years I thought I was going to be a school teacher. And then, you know, I think that's the cool thing about life is like you realize the thing you thought you were going to be is not always the thing that you were called to be.
Right. That's amazing.
So
when did you talk to me about the identity shift and when you decided to start coaching people? And was it difficult to get into that coaching world? Because to a lot of people, stepping into the coaching world is a
Mhm.
big, big step because there's so many
Yeah.
and a lot of coaches fail. Obviously, you're doing incredible. So, when did you realize you wanted to coach and what was that journey like for you?
So that's a great question. And I'll tell you how I realized this. Um, so I was doing high ticket sales, okay, which also was never something I thought I was going to do. What happened was I was selling real estate and then I was going through a separation and divorce. And so I became fearful of my income not being enough. Okay. And so I thought, well, I want to have something else, something in addition to real estate. And so this opportunity had presented itself to do this, high ticket sales position with Pineda Co. And it was for Pineda Media. And I went for the interview. It didn't really make a ton of sense, to be honest, to take this position, but something I felt called to take it. And so I took it and had never done high ticket sales before in my life on Zoom, that type of sales. So I learned and then I started selling and we sold. Ryan started to post content, just organic reels talking about Pineda Media. In the first 3 months of that business, we sold over 300,000. And I mean, it just rapidly took off. And that, again, organic, which is wild. I mean, sometimes I would take 8 calls a day. Like, I was just like, we're selling this stuff, right?
He never had any paid ads?
Nope. He
Wow.
eventually he did, but not
Mhm.
at that time. Okay. So
What was it that he was offering
yeah,
that
so it was I'm trying to remember, the offer changed so much, but the initial offer was like you got 3 months of so you could come in and you could film, okay, for 2 hours and you could get guidance with the filming. You would know what you were going to talk about based on your business goals. And then at the end of it, you would have 30 reels each month and they would be edited and posted for you. That was the offer.
Mhm.
And yeah, and everyone at that time, I mean, everyone's still posting now, and this is still uh, a need. But at that time, especially that type of edit, like the Hermosi Pineda style edit, like
Mhm.
everyone wanted that.
Very
And
stimulating
yeah,
edits.
and so yeah, that was the offer, and it sold like crazy. And so I was selling, and then the people that I sold the offer to, they started to come back to me,
Mhm.
okay, and they wanted more guidance from me. And anyone that's a good high ticket sales rep, they know you don't coach on the call, right? Like,
Right.
but again, I didn't have experience in that and I didn't really know what I was doing, and so I sort of did coach. I didn't know I was coaching, but that's kind of what just naturally was happening. And so people just kept coming back, kept coming back. So that I didn't look for coaching. Coaching found me. To make a long story short, that's how I got into the coaching side. So I was then doing fulfillment and sales.
Mhm.
And then eventually it was all fulfillment. And then that just stuck. So
Yeah.
it was kind of, crazy how it happened.
When did you leave Ryan's company?
I'm technically still with them. It's
Mhm.
just that we don't have that. I mean, in some capacity, for some fulfillment from previous clients, but
Mhm.
I'd say I went out on my own with Create with Kate in that business. It's been about 2 months. So
Amazing that since
yeah,
you created Create with Kate?
yeah.
I
Well, the podcast was started in February of last year,
Okay.
but then my coaching program, that's not a part of Wealthy Creator, that's been about 2 months,
Okay.
maybe a little bit longer,
Yeah.
actually November, so maybe a little longer.
Creating any kind of program that gets someone growth
Yeah.
and propels them to the trajectory of the life that they want is incredible. What does your coaching program look like and what results have you seen for your clients?
Yeah, so that's been a process too, right? And that's, I think, something I want people to hear is many times you think you have to have the entire program figured out before you launch it, right?
Mhm.
It's like, well, once I get this all figured out, then I'll launch it and people will be ready to buy. And that has been such a great lesson for me. And especially working with Ryan, that I have seen is that really the best coaches and entrepreneurs, they first go to the people and really understand their problem. And then they create the program that,
So
but then the
smart.
problem changes all the time, right? Because
Mhm.
we are people change and we evolve. So you have to constantly adapt and change based on the needs of the people. And so currently my how I'm helping people is with in a group style coaching, which I love for so many reasons. Because and I think you said earlier, we don't see things about ourselves, right? But other people see them.
Mhm.
And so what I love about the group style is it's not even I'm not even the one always coaching. Like we're coaching each other. I'm just creating the space.
Mhm.
And what I'm really naturally good at is connecting with people and creating space for others to connect as well.
Mhm.
So that's one aspect of my program is the group style coaching. We do 2 calls a week, and then I have curriculum and different tools and resources. But the real value is in that discussion, that constant discussion of how can we get better, how can we improve, and helping each other. And then I have one-on-one intensive, and that's for 3 months. And what I found with personal branding is what holds people back is the identity piece. You see, because people want to immediately go to being defined by what they do.
Mhm.
So let's just say if you're a realtor, everything in your mind is, well, I've got to create content about real estate because I'm a realtor and nobody cares about who I am as a person. And like, that's where you're wrong. Like, people do care and people like to work with people they feel they can relate to and that they feel can get the job done, of course. But it's finding the balance between both. So, first, I have to help you understand your identity. We do that through these one-on-one intensive calls, and I really pull out the uniqueness of you.
Mhm.
And then how does that make you better as, say, a realtor? How does this unique piece of you make, like in your case, you're incredibly talented at asking questions. You're very curious. You care to know about people. It's probably why you're so good at sales, because you care and people can feel that energy.
Mhm.
So you want to always lean with that, like lead with that in your content, because otherwise you're just another realtor, just like the rest of them.
Mhm.
Like when I was doing real estate full time, um, my daughter, she's quite the comedian. And I think she was maybe like 7 or 8 at the time. She would dress up in my clothes and pretend she was me, like she was making fun of me. We're showing this house today. It's 4 square feet,
Four square
Yeah, because she
feet.
was like in her like playhouse, right?
Yes.
She's like, no bedrooms, but it has a high quality sink.
That's
People
so
just
cute.
loved that because
Yes, of course.
she sounded like me, and which was funny to hear. Anyway, so kind of just like embracing who you are and not thinking you have to be like in this box, right? So we start with that, and then we create a plan for the next 3 months of how you're going to show up consistently,
Mhm.
not just here and there, but how you're going to be consistent. And not just by posting the reels, but like how are you going to show up on your stories? How are you going to engage with your audience? How are you going to build this like magnetic community? If we're just talking about Instagram, because that's what I help my clients with, how do you really build that so that not only can you get more clients, but you can feel fulfilled as a person? And
Mhm.
so then once usually the people that work with me, like they've already started creating. If they're doing the intensive, it's not like they've never made a video. And so they just need that 3 months to really like kind of propel them. And then usually they're good to go. And then they just remain in group style coaching.
Mhm.
Um, but so yeah, so those are my offerings right now. And then I have a free community called the Daily Video Challenge.
Mhm.
And that is pretty much exactly how it sounds. It's like just post something daily, and it could be literally anything. It's just you exercising that ability to show up.
Wow.
So,
So I want to unpack two things that I picked up, and I think this is going to be huge for the audience because so many people struggle with this, especially those people who want growth, but they're stuck in grow. They like so they want growth, but they're stuck in the. You're gonna have to help me with this
yeah,
part.
yeah.
Like they're stuck in the pain. So like when somebody wants to grow, but they're like afraid to.
Okay.
What is that
Let's
called?
think about that. Let's
Because
like where what do you mean? They're afraid to.
so somebody wants to grow. Like, so my question to you is going to be, why are people afraid to be themselves? Like,
Okay.
and then the second question is, how does somebody become more magnetic if they
Okay.
want to be? So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you these two questions because I want to pull this genius out of you.
I love it.
And it's going to make incredible reels. So why people want to grow?
Yeah.
I want to grow, right? But I'm afraid to. Why
Is
is
this
some?
you specifically or
No,
no?
this is just
This is just
this
like
is people in
what people
general.
are thinking. Okay.
Hmm.
But you're saying they're afraid to because they don't want to be themselves? Or wait.
So people want to grow, but why do people have the resistance of growing when they want to?
Is it with video content specifically or just anything?
I think with anything. Are they afraid of failing?
Well, I think yes. I think the number one fear is uh yeah, if the fear of failure, right? Like that's why people don't try new things is because it's easier to stay with the familiar
Mhm.
because it's uncomfortable to do something different that you've never done before.
Mhm.
So with showing up online, it's it's easier to hide behind your career. It's easier. It's we have all these labels and I like to say like masks that we wear. And it's because it's easier to hide behind them. But
Mhm.
when you're this what I tell people and I just made a video about this, but think of a 3-year-old and how they act. They are just unapologetically themselves. If they see something, they say it, right? Like, I mean, we've all been there where maybe your kid says something that they should, like, oh, your nose is so big, or this, whatever, because they're just saying what they see and what they're experiencing. They're
Mhm.
not trying to fit in, and they have the time of their lives. Like they're loving life and you can see it. Then they go to school and then they start to have an awareness of judgment and how am I fitting in these in tribes because we want
Mm.
to be a part of something.
Mhm.
That's natural. Um and so it's you have to strip away all of this conditioning throughout your life of all the armor that you've built up hiding behind these things, and then you have to ask yourself like, well, who am I really? And
Mhm.
this is it's very hard to do. I mean, because you have to go within. Everyone's looking externally for the answer. Well, once I get this many views, once I get this many followers, then I'm good enough.
Mm.
And that's not true. Like, so to be more of yourself, you first have to know who you are. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be very, very hard to show up and be magnetic online if you don't know who you are, because to be magnetic, you have to be authentic, but you can't be authentic if you don't know who you are. So it's a
Mm.
lot of like just being able to go through that process. That's what I help people with, is just I ask them questions to for them to understand
Mhm.
and remember who they are, because it's always there.
Yeah.
It's just that you've been hiding it because of your own life experiences, and you've kind of buried that person that you are because you're
Mhm.
trying to make other people happy.
Why is it that people who do have something special to offer don't think they do, but then you have these cliches
Mm-hmm.
who think they have something special to offer, but they don't?
I mean, I have to think about this question because I'm like, I think everyone has something special to offer, but I think, are you saying like if they're maybe not authentic about it,
Mhm.
but um
Like so if someone's a cliche of a cliche.
mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know how I would answer that question. I think that with anything in life, there's shortcuts.
Mhm.
You can always take a shortcut and it'll work for a while,
Mhm.
but not the long game. And so I think authenticity wins always in the long run. And I'm success to me is fulfillment.
Mhm.
It's not just some external thing like the money, the numbers, whatever. It's like you reaching it to, it's not even a finish line. There really isn't a finish line. I guess you getting to the end of your life and knowing that everything that you put out there was truly in alignment with your heart and soul. And that's how you leave behind something of value. That's a life well lived.
Mhm.
It's not about, because we know there's all kinds of people that will say be successful, but they're not internally fulfilled.
They're not happy.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but like, I mean, I don't like, even if you take, if we're talking about Instagram, let's just say I have less than 10,000 followers, but I have something like everyone that I meet through Instagram, the connection is just like none other
Mhm.
because everything I've put out there is truly my heart.
Mhm.
And so what I draw to me is in alignment with my heart.
I love that.
So because if you did it the other way, then
Yeah.
you might grow, but then
Mhm.
it's not gonna like feel good.
I was having a conversation with my life coach yesterday, and we talked about knowing if the Holy Spirit is with you
Mm,
or if the enemy is with you.
mm-hmm,
And the main difference is when you feel peace and joy and happiness and you feel light, that's the Holy Spirit.
mm,
But if you feel lack and scarcity and angry and anything that's a negative feeling, it's the enemy coming after you. The enemy will only come after you if he wants to stop you from doing something.
right.
And you will feel it. So anybody on track to do something big, I'm sure you have had those days where
Mm-hmm.
you feel lack and you're like, what am I even doing? Like,
Oh, I have those all the time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's because you're impacting lives,
Mm-hmm.
and it only takes impacting that one person who's going to make a huge impact. I mean, like, look at Elon Musk,
Right.
right? Could you imagine if we didn't have him?
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, the Jeff Bezos of the world who
Yeah.
employs so many people all over the place. But so how important do you think faith is in the success of your life and business?
I think it's everything.
Mhm.
And for many, I mean, I've always been a believer, but for many years I didn't have an intentional practice and relationship, and it was hard. Like life was much harder.
Mhm.
And but well, I like, this is interesting cuz it was harder internally, okay? But from the outside looking in, it wasn't hard. And the day to day wasn't hard. Like I was in mediocrity at this
Mm,
stage of life, but internally I was like screaming and thinking, this isn't my life. There's something more. I don't know why, I don't know what, but I feel like there's something more.
mhm,
But according to society, I was following the rules and I was living the right way,
mhm,
the right way. And then I started to get curious. That's when I started, I think, really diving into my personal development journey. I mean, I've always been fascinated by personal development, always, even when I was younger. But then I really got curious because I just had that feeling of like, there has to be something else. There has
when
to be
was
something
this?
more. I was like 30.
Mhm.
So I'd say, yeah, I'll be 38 this year. So about 8 years ago.
Okay, well, yeah.
And then at 32, well, from 30 to 32, I had like this falling out with my dad, and then that really propelled the inner work because I was in so much pain.
Mhm.
And then that's how I learned how to forgive. we reconciled, but then my dad died like suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
And that completely changed my entire life
Wow.
for the good.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's what happens to most people. Something traumatic has to happen in their life for them to wake up. And it's sad but true. Um so when that happened, then a lot of things happened after that. It was like things were revealed about my marriage, betrayal, um, just so much. My one of my best friends lost her little girl. There was a drowning incident.
Oh
It was
no.
horrifying. She
That's
was 5. She was
oh.
best friends with my oldest daughter, and I mean, just it was. I remember having this thought like, why is all of this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And through faith, though, and developing that relationship, you realize like, well, God puts you through these things and breaks you to put you back together. And then he tests you, to see like, if you are called to do amazing things, then that's a lot of responsibility. And he has to know that he can trust you with all of that responsibility and that you're going to do good things with what he's going to give to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a lot of, I think, what did they call that? Like pruning or
Pruning.
something.
Yeah.
And that definitely was the case with me. I had to go through a lot of those trials and then learn. I mean, the biggest lesson was with my dad because I was so deeply hurt. And I think this is something many people experience because you put your parents on a pedestal and we have this expectation of how they should love and treat us and accept us.
Mm-hmm.
And but we're all just humans and we're not perfect, and even the people that love you so much, like they can only love you with the love they know how to love with. And
Yeah.
so if they didn't heal and they didn't do the inner work, well, they can't give that to you
They can't
if
give
they
you
don't
what they
know
don't
how.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was the greatest lesson for me, was to be able to look at my dad and say, well, he must be really hurting, because I just don't believe my dad would intentionally want to hurt me.
Wow, the awareness you had.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to get there, but like
But you got it,
I
and
got
so
it.
many people don't get there.
And that is yeah, that was my greatest lesson, because see, we make assumptions
Mm-hmm.
for what we think people are doing to us, and it's all about us, instead of us saying, well, how am I showing up and what might they be going through? Because if you can take full responsibility for everything in your life, that's
Man,
when it changes.
so much growth in
Mm-hmm.
accountability. So I started, to your point, I started experiencing a ton of growth when I decided everything in some way, shape, or form is my fault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if something went wrong when it was with my son, I'm like, I could have prevented that.
Right.
And that increased my level of awareness tenfold,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is what catapulted me to this, to who I am today.
Yeah.
Um, I want to piggyback off of what you were saying about faith and how God will test you. So I became much closer to God and I have a much better relationship with him ever since I hired my spiritual life coach.
Okay. And
And
how did you find this life coach?
she was a referral. And I got she was referred to me when I was in the darkest place of my life.
Because I was gonna say that was gonna be my next question. Is like, most people aren't seeking life coaches, right? Like when things are just normal,
Hmm.
however you define that. But so, what was that dark place? What was going on?
I was in pain. So I did not know God. You know what? I knew God, but I had a lot of resistance because I had
Mm-hmm.
to let go of this former life. I had to let go of the idea of who I was many years ago, which
Did
you,
you have shame or something
I had
about the old you?
a lot of shame, so much shame. And, I was not a great person in my
Mm-hmm.
youth, and I had a really difficult childhood growing up. And so for a long time, I thought it was my fault because
That you were treated poorly as a child, or what?
yes, so I was treated. My mother tried her best.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother was divorced twice, engaged 4 times.
Oh.
So I really never had the father figures I've always wanted. And, my mother was just trying to survive
Hmm.
this marriage when this that was ending because my stepdad was leaving her for his secretary.
Hmm.
And of course that broke her. And so how do you heal your kids when you cannot heal yourself?
Yeah.
So
Was
when
it just you or did you have siblings?
I have siblings. So I'm the oldest of 4
Mm.
girls.
So
And
you've had to mother,
I had to mother.
probably.
Yes, I had to mother. So I remember this one time, and this is the moment where the darkness came. And I lived in this darkness until I was about 32. At age 15, I was in high school, and my mom was going through this terrible divorce. Like, my stepdad ended up divorcing her about at 14. When I was 14, sorry, excuse
Mhm.
me. And I was 15, getting ready to go to this prom, and
Yeah.
I was really into this boy, right? But I didn't quite understand because I didn't really have a solid father figure
Mhm.
of what I should be looking for in a guy, right?
Right.
So, of course, I was head over heels, totally infatuated with this guy. He dumps me 2 days before prom. So, I, of course, am so brokenhearted. I could
Mhm.
not believe the pain I was experiencing. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I would so much rather someone just break my freaking leg than
Wow.
me feel this
Yeah.
pain." So I go to my mom and I'm like I'm asking for help. Like, how do I heal this pain?
Mhm.
Because I'm 15, 14, 15.
Yeah.
I've never experienced this before. And she can't help me.
Hmm.
And because she can't even help herself. And, of course, I
What did
understand.
she say to you, though?
It just happens, baby. It just
Oh,
happens.
just kinda like, "Eh."
Just a generic answer because her herself couldn't even heal the pain.
Mhm.
So I get it now. I understand now because I'm on that self development journey. But what did I do? I went upstairs and I told myself, I am never going to love again.
Mm.
So for 2 years, I practiced pushing down any kind of emotion.
Wow.
I did not feel love. I did not feel lack. I did not feel happiness. I
You were
did not feel
numb.
sorrow. I was 100% numb. And then I became a robot. Then I found drugs found me,
Okay.
and then I became a drug addict that led to, other poor choices,
Mhm.
meeting poor people that are surrounded in that environment, and then one day, I met my husband, and quite literally my knight in shining armor, but he himself was also broken. So now
Gosh, got chills.
we have 2 traumatic broken people who come
So was he
together.
on drugs too, maybe? Or what
No,
was
but
it?
no, but,
He just wasn't healed,
he
hadn't
didn't
done the inner work.
yeah, he actually had a much worse childhood than I did.
And you guys were pretty young at this time, right? When you met?
So I met him when I was 18, 19
Okay.
years old,
Yeah.
but we ended up getting married when I was 24. We were just
Yeah.
friends for a while, and then we ended up getting married, and, it would have seemed like a shotgun wedding because we were just
Mhm.
hanging out, and then we decided to get married,
Yeah.
and, 2 weeks later, we find out I'm 8 weeks pregnant. So a lot of
Wow.
people think, like,
Yeah.
it was shotgun wedding. But it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me
Mhm.
because now I was forced to address the monster that I've tucked into this closet and
Mhm.
grow. So my son is born. I don't know how to I'm just thinking to myself like, "Okay, well, I gotta take care of this little human."
Right.
And I start seeing his personality and that this little baby, this little infant, and he's
Mhm.
so good. God is good. Psalm says children are the heritage of the Lord.
Mm.
And I'm thinking like he is the blessing that is going to help heal me. So he does. And I go on this journey where I'm trying to heal myself and it's very hard. But
Is this when you get the life coach?
uh,
Or
I,
when
I
was
I
that?
I get her years later.
Years
But
later. Okay.
so my husband and I, we're having a hard time in our marriage because we don't know God. We don't
Okay.
we don't know the right principles to follow.
Yes. Yes.
And then one day my husband finds God, and usually if the husband finds
Leads.
God, he will lead the family.
Mhm.
And there's like a 92% chance the
Yep.
family will follow, but if the woman finds God, it's only a 17% chance.
That's where I was
Yeah.
in my marriage. So,
You were trying to lead your husband to God?
mhm.
Mm. So he tries to lead me, and I have a lot of resistance because I'm still
You
thinking
do? Okay.
I have a lot of resistance. I'm still thinking I'm like the stories in the Bibles aren't true.
Mm.
There's no way. And then I go down this path of understanding, could it be true?
Mhm.
So I research the chariots at the bottom of the ocean. I research the Nephilims and where their bones are found and the proof that they actually existed. And I was like, okay, maybe there is something to this. And then I'm still trying to heal. And I'm still in this very dark place. I still, at this point, sadly to say, I still did not love my husband. I didn't love my son. I didn't love myself. If I died in any moment, it would have been fine.
Really?
Yes. I was so emotionally unavailable to everything and everyone.
Wow.
Right. So I was cold. And
Were
then
you mean to people, like, that didn't know you? Or did you seem like that? Like, did people say, "Oh,
I
she's
was
such
n-
a
I was I
bitch,"
was
you know?
numb. I was cold. They
Yeah.
could see I was hollow. There was no energy. I wasn't magnetic. I wasn't
Mhm.
pulling. I wasn't there was no
Just going through the
gravitational pull.
motions.
I was a shell, right? And I did so well in real estate as well. It's crazy too. I did well in real estate because I was just a machine. I was a go, 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 go,
Yeah,
go.
because you can take the actions and get the result. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you just put on a mask.
Mhm.
And then, I would consider myself as a performer. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to go perform to sell real estate. And then, which, I think everything happens for a reason. It really does. But one day, I have a friend, her name is Nicole, and she's at our brokerage, and she's like, Erica, you just seem kind of angry.
Mhm.
What would basically, and she was like, have you ever thought about coaching? And I was like, what is that? I've seen it, but I've never
Mhm.
really understood what it was. And she's like, well, it's basically somebody pointing out the things that are going wrong in your life and they give you direction on how to fix it. And I
Mhm.
was like, I mean, I guess. So I take the referral. I get on the phone with Amelia, and she is, who is actually going to be a guest on my podcast.
Yeah.
She's incredible. She's absolutely changed my life. So I get on the phone with her, and of course, I have this smile because I don't want anyone to
You're
know how
performing. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
performing.
another performance. Let's go. Yeah.
I don't want anyone to know how broken I am. I am
Mhm.
so empty. And I think she knew it, so we do our consultation and she's like, okay, well, I think I can help you with your faith, like getting closer to God. And so we go through the weekly sessions. And after about 6 months, everything seems to become brighter.
Mm.
I start to feel what the water even tastes different.
Wow.
Right. And so I'm thinking, is this what it is to feel love, to
Mhm.
be happy? And then I understood what the Holy Spirit was. The Holy
Mhm.
Spirit wants you to experience joy and peace, and the enemy wants you to feel the opposite.
Yeah.
So she healed me. God then, would just send me these little whispers, right?
Mhm. Or
Oh,
people, probably.
people. Yeah. So one of my tenants, she's actually a felon. And she was very open about it. And,
Mhm.
I listened. But what's interesting is how she actually came into my life was I remember
Yeah.
like it was yesterday. I was renovating this property. We just bought it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put a tenant in there because it's almost done. We got 3 months to go. And I was selling one of my clients' property, and in that property was the tenant, and
Mhm.
she needed somewhere to go. She had 4 dogs, but she was just a wonderful person. So I get out of the shower. I have no reason to think this way. I get out of the shower, and I am like butt naked.
Mhm.
And I lean up against the foot of my bed, and I hear the whisper. It says, "Call Emily and ask her if she wants to be your tenant."
Mm.
And I was like, "What an odd thought to think."
Isn't that interesting though? Because see, those labels on
Mhm.
her
Mhm.
could make her feel unworthy. But I think that's where the Holy Spirit
The
comes
wh
in.
Absolutely. So, I obey the thought. I
Mhm.
call her and I was like, "Hey, Emily, so I'm calling to see if you would like to rent out my property once
Mhm.
it's finished, and it should be done in a couple months." And she's like, "Oh my God, Erica, this is an absolute blessing. I have been praying to God to help to find me a place to live, and here we go. Here you are." And she's been my tenant for 3 years.
That's
My favorite
incredible.
and best tenant. So, But this is kind of long-winded on
No, I
the
love
the
that.
faith and how it's real is I've been asking over the last 2 weeks very intentionally for God to make
Mhm.
something of my life. I said, "God, make something of me. Use me, turn me, use me as a tool, widen my
Yeah.
vessel so I can give more." And
And then you
yes.
start your podcast.
Well, actually, I started the podcast, right? But this thing happened 2 days ago.
What
He brought me an opportunity, and so my life coach really brings things in perspective,
Yeah.
right? So I do honest check-ins with her. So I asked God, I said, "I want to start a sales academy. I know how to sell." I
I literally have chills all over. Oh my god. What
I
is happening?
so I understand marketing. I understand the funnels. Before I sold real estate, I worked for a big cable company
Yeah.
here in Las Vegas. Actually, they service like
Is it Cox Communications? Or yeah.
yeah. I'm probably gonna edit that out so people because I don't. Are you supposed to say the company names?
I don't I say whatever. I don't care.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
probably I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I,
I'm
I
just gonna say cable
I'm
company.
a rule breaker, I guess they say. Not because I'm intentionally doing it. I'm like, I don't know. Is that not allowed? I
Oh,
don't know.
I was.
Is that not?
I
See, I'm learning something new every day.
I read that you're not supposed to say it unless
Oh,
you right, and
if
I
you
was
have like a
unless you have like written permission and stuff. So I just
okay.
say big cable company.
I'm like, okay, just more business for you, you
Yeah,
know?
right. So I used to work for a big cable company, and it was my first sales job ever. And I went from being a bartender to at the Trump International Hotel in Vegas to working for this company, my first sales job ever. And so within 6 months, I became one of the top sales reps on the western coast of the United States.
Well, okay, before you continue, how do you think you did that?
I was genuinely curious.
But were you? Because you were performing before. So this is after you had life coach or no?
No, this
This is
was far
before.
before.
So you're taking the daily action. Like you're a hard worker. It sounds like no matter what, that's just in you.
Mhm.
But there is a difference, right, between just doing the actions and being like fully in it, like emotionally and physically. So
Mhm.
you were. I think this might be a good lesson here. I don't know, but you were physically taking the actions and you were achieving a result, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
but were you fulfilled?
No. So I worked for this cable company before my real estate career. So I've been selling real estate for
Mm-hmm.
almost 10 years. So I was with this company from 2015 to 2017.
Okay.
And so I got my real estate license in 2017, and then
Okay.
I dipped from that place. So I started
But you
working
were making good money,
a very
correct?
good money,
So you had to take like that. I feel like this is a pivotal moment, like in the story, because you were making like I don't know, was it over 6 figures?
close to.
Okay, close to, and you were like, no, I'm gonna let go of this and take a chance on myself, right? That's
Yes.
like huge. So
Yes.
how did you come to that conclusion?
So so when I started working for this company, they put us through this training program, and then they basically made us read off these scripts, and I was like, "I really hate this
I
script.
hate this.
I hate the script." And then they wanted us to basically meet all these metrics. I was the only one that never met all the metrics, but I made the most money in the office.
Interesting.
So, and it was because I had a different way of selling the product. So, when they rolled out the home security system to be
Mhm.
basically to be tied in with the other products, that's when I was like, "There's something to this because I don't like selling this other product that they have, but I see the value in this one." So when I basically sold the product, I bundled it. That is when basically my sales shot through the roof because I said, "I see the value in this thing. It's valuable. People can it's
You
really."
believed in it.
I believed in it. And then they came to me and they were like, "Erica, you seem to really understand how to sell this thing." And I would sell, 30 units in a day when everybody else was struggling at 5.
Mhm.
So they were like, "We'd like you to, basically create a training program on how
Sure.
to sell this thing." And I was like, "Sure, yeah, I can go ahead and write out a PDF or something on what I do and what I say." So I did that and they took it, and I was like, "Hey, I was thinking maybe I could actually create a training program for this."
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, no, we don't want that, but thank you for the PDF. And I was like, all right, so you're good enough to take my strategy, but
Mhm.
I'm not good enough for you to let me teach it. And so that's when I got my real estate license and I dipped.
'Cause
So
you didn't feel valued,
I didn't feel
which is
valued.
the pain. It sounds like
Yeah,
you were like, all right, I'm I'm not going to stay in this
yeah.
because maybe you weren't consciously aware of it, but like subconsciously you did know that you were more valuable than that treatment.
Yes, I was like, okay, so I am not valued here, but maybe
Hmm.
I can be valued somewhere else.
Yeah,
So I went into real estate. In my first year, I sold 28 homes.
that's great.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of fumbling, right?
Yeah,
To
but like
just,
that's really good. I feel like, I mean, what do most people do in their first year? Like one?
I, I think.
It's like something ridiculous.
But, and then it just grew from there. Um,
But again, all this, okay, all this time, you were still like the life coach didn't come into play until when?
the life coach didn't come into play until I was about 6 years into real estate.
So that was what year? Because you said you were doing the other sales 2015.
She, she,
So
she came in, 2003. 2023, sorry.
2023. Okay. So I think this is like so good. So you were making money. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, she's like crushing it. Right. But then it still wasn't um, fulfilling.
There was no fulfillment.
So yeah, where was that moment in time where you were like, I'm trying to understand from the success to the life coach and then
So during this time, when I was doing really well in real estate, I had to pay for leads.
okay,
I was, you would think you're profitable, but then you look at the overhead and you're like,
sure,
well,
you have to really look at the numbers. Yeah.
right. So then I had my life coach. She opened everything. And so your brain is like a parachute. It doesn't work unless
Mm-hmm.
it's opened.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I heard this one quote. It was from Viktor Franklin, who was a psychologist, and he said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And within that space lies your choice to respond. And how you choose
Mm.
to respond lies your growth and freedom." And I was like, how am I going to respond to things?
Yeah.
And I didn't have the open mind until I met the life coach.
Yeah.
When I met her, that is when everything catapulted to what we see today, because then I was like, well, how can I take what I know and impact other people's lives?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to feel the fulfillment. I started to feel things because God was putting me in the places
Mm-hmm.
that I needed to be. And I went off course. So he tested me 2 days ago. One of my clients reached out and said, "Erica, our son is getting into sales.
Okay.
He's getting into sales, and we were wondering if you could listen to his presentation and just give him some, tips on if he could do anything better." And I was like, "Sure, yes, I'd be happy to." Now, I know now looking back, I know that the enemy he was coming at me, because when this kid came to me and said, "Hey, Erica, my mom said that you can help me. You listen to my presentation,
Mm-hmm.
Gave me some, tips on what I can do," and I was like, "Yeah, sure, how long is it?" He's like, "Well, it's an hour long," and I'm like, "Whoa, my gosh, that's so long," and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "I don't wanna give you my time when there's nothing in it for me,"
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, I had conviction about that feeling, and I had conviction about blowing him off because obviously it was wrong. So, I go to my life coach yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "This whole thing happened with this kid, and I feel really bad about it, and I still feel conviction about it." And she's like, "Well, what have your prayers looked like in the last couple of days?" And I said, "I've asked God to make something of me to help it if this
And
sales
you didn't see it.
if this sales academy is something that I really should do, and what am I supposed to do?"
Give
And
me a
she's like,
sign.
"And
Yeah.
he gave you an opportunity."
Huh. Wow.
And I was like, "And he gave me an opportunity." So as soon as I got off the phone with her, I went back to the kid and I was like, "Hey, listen, sounds great. Let's go ahead and do this tonight from 5:45 to 6:45. I'm happy to listen to your presentation." I listened to his presentation and I give him some ideas and I'm like, "Hey, listen, I personally think that one of the number one things that is a top seller to help your conversion rate is testimonies. People
Totally.
love to buy from people when other people say that that person is awesome.
100%.
Also, address the pain point. What
Mm-hmm.
pain is your consumer having? And remember to, when you're selling and marketing, you want to think from the consumer, not for the consumer.
Mhm.
And he was just like, wow, this is incredible. Thank you so much. I think that this is going to really help me. And I was thinking to myself when I got off the phone with him, this is what life's about.
Mhm.
Teaching, teaching those who are younger and passing them the tools that I've acquired.
Right.
And I mean, it's just funny how you ask God for help and then he'll give you the opportunity to
Mhm.
become the next best version of you.
But you have to be aware, right? Cuz
But you
like,
have
oh
to be
my
aware.
gosh, that is such a good lesson of like cuz I think many people turn so many opportunities away and they don't even realize it.
They
Just like you did, but you then had the awareness, but imagine how many people do that.
I wouldn't have had the awareness if I didn't have that conversation with my
Mhm.
coach because I was in a place of self.
Yes.
I was in a
Yes.
place of self versus servant.
But now let's talk about this on the flip side, okay? Because this has been my journey right now and my learning. Because I was almost of too much service, if you will. Because I do think there's always like there is a balance. So I started to experience this feeling when I went out on my own of being in high demand, right? But then I'm like, the revenue is not matching up.
Mhm.
So I was giving and giving and giving my time. Well, as a coach, I mean, as anybody, your time is valuable. But when that is, I mean, that's literally what I do. It's like you can't just hop on a phone call with anybody at any time because that's time where you could be making money with a paying client.
Mhm.
Um, Now, I'm not saying like every single situation, like we got on a call, which was great, but we also were connected through a mutual friend. So
Mhm.
it's a different story, but like on Instagram, people, reach out all the time. Hey, can I get on a quick call? Can I do this? Now, then you ask the question, well, okay, it's just maybe a sales call, right? Well, at some point, no, because if you have enough content out there and you have enough offerings and you're pre-qualifying them before you're even getting on a call, well, then you don't get on a call if they're not ready to invest. Because there's offerings where you don't need to get on a call. You can make a decision. Here's the link right here, right? If you
Mhm.
want high ticket, obviously that's the pre-qualification and then you decide whether you get on the call. But what I used to do was just give people my time, for free. And because I'm being of service.
Mhm.
But then I've had to like learn. I mean, I'm literally in the process of learning this right now. Um, I have to have this like discernment of when to do that, when not to.
Mhm.
Because otherwise I can't continue to serve you
Yeah.
if I don't have the financial resources to be able to do that. So it's
Mhm.
like it's learning to value your time and set boundaries,
Yeah.
which has been I mean, boundaries have been my life lesson, right? But
Yeah.
there's just new levels to it that
Yeah.
happen.
I think I'm there too. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I moved away from buying my business to attracting my business, I had to learn how to do this. And so I have a set of pre-qualifying questions that someone has to go through before they even get to a call with me
Let's
because
talk about those. What
because
would those be?
I get it. My questions are very direct. So, I ask them, what is your time frame and what are you looking for and why?
Mm-hmm.
If the intention of why you are trying to move to Las Vegas is not great enough, I won't jump on a call with you.
Right.
If there's not a strong enough reason for you to be here, I can't jump on a call with you. And if somebody if they're not super if they're not really dialed in like when they want to be
Mm-hmm.
here also, if they don't have all the details to give with me, they they don't pass the pre-qualification with me. The ones that I do get on the phones with, I always set the appointment for them to come to the office and I have them sign a buyer broker agreement. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't sign the buyer broker agreement, understanding that we have an exclusive agreement together and you cannot work
Yeah.
with any other realtor, we don't work, we can't work together. I've only had resistance with one person. They did end up signing and we are actually looking for a property right now, but their concern was, well, we just think that maybe working with multiple realtors will get us the best result. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, actually, no, it won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, working with one realtor who has every intention for you to have success is the
Yeah,
best way.
right.
Um, but yeah, I think it's just dialing in those pre-qualifying questions and then how serious are they?
As I guess with maybe it sounds like a new offering for you being a sales coach, right? Is that what you said? This is what's kind of coming through.
I'd like to be a sales
Well, no,
coach.
this is, I feel like maybe this is God confirming that again. Let's take what I do,
Mhm.
okay, in my program. It's different than selling real estate, right? Because it's coaching and personal branding coaching. Uh, what kind of like, how would you, if I was your client, how would you be advising me to pre-qualify my potential clients? And my offer, just for context, is 5,000 for 3 months. That's my high ticket.
Mhm.
And then my group coaching program is, it's 497 for the whole year.
It's pretty
It's
good.
really good. Or if you don't have the guts to pay for the whole year, even though it's an incredible deal, then I have it at 122 a month.
Mhm.
And that's intentional. I'm making the monthly way higher because I'm
Mhm.
like, just pay for the annual and commit to it, because
Mhm.
it's not going to happen overnight, right? um or now I'm testing out this is literally just a test, but this is for like, if you want my help with anything, kind of a coaching uh scenario of, it's 111 to get on a 1 hour call with me.
Mhm.
But that was because I got a message from that coaching call, right? Just a
Mhm.
couple of days ago myself. But if you just take my core offerings, I guess, well, or just take all of that, and what advice would you give me?
I guess when you pre-qualify these people, really, what is their pain and why do they want to cure it?
So if you were in the DMs, let's just
Mhm.
say, what kind of questions would you ask on that? Because we know the pain is, I can't show up every day.
Mhm.
I can't be consistent, and I don't know how to be myself. And I'm scared of judgment. That's really the root, right? They're just
Mhm.
afraid of judgment. Um, so it's I think, and maybe this is a limiting belief, but I'm like, I feel like this is a harder sell. Like, you need a house because you need somewhere to live, right? You don't need to build a personal brand. You don't need to. You can still survive without it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts.
So I am a consumer because I recently just paid, $15,000 to
Hmm.
have personal development. And it's definitely not because I needed it. I wanted it
But why did you want it?
because I knew that the next best version of myself was on the other side of all my challenges that I couldn't figure out on my own.
Hmm.
So how can you cure that person's problem?
But how did you? I guess let's rewind with the sales process, because the program that you signed up for, was it through a friend or through somebody, or was it through Instagram?
It was through Instagram. I found them on ads.
Okay, so you found an ad.
Yeah.
You responded to the ad. Was it then that you got on a sales call on Zoom?
So how it worked was I saw his ad, and the first thing he said was he addressed a pain point in the form of a question,
Okay.
and it intrigued me. That
Do
was
you remember what it was?
yes. So the hook was, are you struggling with making content and building your brand, but
Okay.
you don't know how to do it?
Okay.
Well, and then he, basically went over his pitch and then
Hmm.
took us to a web class,
So it was like a free class or a paid one?
paid one.
Okay.
So I do believe that paying people pay attention.
I agree.
So
How
I
much was the webinar?
the webinar was $147.
Okay.
And so I attended the webinar and listened, and then that webinar actually it basically gave us value on creating content, how it works,
Hmm.
and, you know, personal brand building and how to capture audience's attention.
How long was the webinar?
The webinar was maybe 2 hours,
Oh, that's it? Okay.
and then that led
Okay.
us to a challenge.
Oh, and then that led to a
And
challenge.
that
Okay.
led to a 5-day challenge. And then you
Okay.
actually had to pay for the 5-day challenge. I think I paid over
Oh,
$200 for the challenge.
okay.
But I showed up. I
Yep.
showed up for 5 days, and so for the first hour, because I was in VIP, first hour I was able
Mhm.
to, sit in the Q&A,
Mhm.
and then the second hour went into, what is a personal brand and why is it important to have
Yeah.
one? So what he's doing is he built urgency, he
Mhm.
built understanding of what it does for you and how it gets you to your goal faster.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it's not a need, no one needs to, but it
Mhm.
addressed the want. And so what it did is it pulls the people who are interested. You're not convincing anybody, you're persuading them.
Right.
And so you've just further persuaded people why it's actually important because they actually want this thing. They already desire to have this thing.
Mhm.
And then so the challenge was 5 days. On the 4th day, he brought on testimonies. He
Okay.
brought on, which was so smart. That's actually what
Yeah.
sold me.
Yeah.
2 people came on and he said, and he actually asked me because he's seen so much growth in 3
Yeah.
months because I'm actually
Yeah.
implementing what he's teaching.
I love it.
He wants me to be a testimony on his next challenge,
I love
and I'm
that.
happy to do it for him.
Yeah. He's one of my absolute favorite people, by the way.
And he's
I
incredible.
love him.
He's amazing. So the testimonies is actually what sold me because I was like, how do I know if what you're offering is actually going to change me? And then they
Right.
came on and said that they've experienced immense growth since
Yeah.
it. And I was like, I want that growth.
Yeah.
My desire only grew then.
Mhm.
So then, day 5 came up and he had the offer. And, he coaches with Myron Golden.
Which is another fave. Yeah.
Amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, and that's when he came up with the offer. And, I paid up front. I was
Mhm.
just like, this is exactly what I needed. But I guess for your coaching program, how are you bringing the people in? Like, so you're just posting content and then they're sending you a DM, right?
Well, that's one way. And then I just started running ads. Um, but it's like add to DMs,
Mhm.
right? And then pre-qualify them and get them on a call. So my takeaway when I'm hearing this is like there really needs to be more of a process where they are like it's not just get on the call. It's they have to ease into it. So that's the webinar, the challenge. It's like this process of getting them ready.
Mhm.
It's not an hour call.
No, and I think you actually waste a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
hour by hour with different people. Instead,
Yes.
congregate all the people who have a desire for
Mm-hmm.
growth, again, that get them to a web class on how you're going to fulfill
Right.
that. Get them into a challenge. What you're doing is you're creating immersion. They're spending
Mm-hmm.
all this time with you and they're building trust
Well,
with
this
you.
is beautiful because I have, so like I told you, I have a free community or a
Mhm.
free challenge, which is the daily video challenge. So I have a community of 50, I think it's 55 people.
Mhm.
And that challenge was incredibly impactful, the free challenge. And the results were just amazing from that. Because we did it it was about two, let's see, October 16th to January 3rd. I don't know how many weeks exactly, but it's a decent amount of time, right? Not
Mhm.
a 5 day. Um, but yeah, so I could have a webinar that's paid because
Mhm.
when you pay attention,
Uh-huh.
and I could, present it to that community as well as my other community.
Mhm.
Because see, my other community, they're not getting, some of them are getting one-on-one, but not all of them. So I could use that same concept.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I like
and
that.
he does group coaching versus one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, the group coaching I have had, it's so much better than one-on-ones because I'm learning from everybody else's problems and Omar is
Right.
addressing them.
Right.
He's addressing each problem. So I'm now fast tracking my learning because everybody in there, they
Mm-hmm.
pretty much ask the same questions, if not better questions.
Yeah. No, I do believe it's so valuable. I
So,
do.
but yeah, I think it's all just in how you package your
Mm-hmm.
message and getting and congregating everybody who has that desire to one place, make sure they
Mm-hmm.
pay because paying people pay attention,
Right.
and then put them through the challenge. And the ones who see the value in the high ticket offers,
Mm-hmm.
they will take it.
What was his? I'm curious because you know how many people were in the 5 day challenge, I
Mhm.
guess. And then you know whoever was in the next round just
Mhm.
simply by seeing their faces. So what would you say were his conversions roughly?
So, if I remember correctly, there were 200 people on the web class, from the
Okay.
webinar to
Yep.
the web class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from those 200 people, I believe 50 people
That sounds
went
about
into the
right.
challenge.
Okay.
And
And
there was only
then
10 seats available for the challenge. He filled all 10 seats.
oh, you mean for the high ticket? There was 10 seats.
Mhm.
Okay. And then what's the length of time for that high ticket one?
It's a year.
It's a year. Okay. And then that consists of what? A monthly call or weekly, or what is it?
Weekly. So it's a
Weekly.
weekly group call,
Okay.
and it goes over, there's one master class.
Okay.
He'll go over question, Q&A,
Yeah.
and then he'll go over just kind of like workflow, like he'll do this thing called hot seats
Like
where
hot seat coaching
yeah,
where, okay, love. Yeah.
looking at people's content saying what can you do better.
Okay. I call that, sounds like my content review. So we
Yes.
review other people's content
And
and
that
we all provide feedback, not
yes.
just me.
And
Does he
that
do that too?
yeah.
Okay.
So he provides most of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll let people queue in,
Okay.
but that is where
They're so valuable.
I get a
Yeah.
lot of value from the Q&As and from the hot seats.
Mm-hmm.
The master calls are great. So actually,
Is the master call like where he's teaching on a specific topic?
mhm,
Okay, so more presentation style.
yes,
Okay.
he'll have
Mm-hmm.
slides. He'll talk about how it works for him or other
Yep.
people or whatever. So
More tactical
more
things.
tactical, yeah.
Okay.
So our last one, I actually asked for it in our school community. I was like, "Hey, Omar,
Mm-hmm.
can you do a master class on podcasts?" And he's like, "Coming right up."
Yeah.
So then he did the thing, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm still struggling. I'm like, I want to create a podcast, but I'm
Yeah.
scared. I don't have anything valuable to say. No one's going to listen to me. I don't have the pedigree, right?
Oh my
Because
gosh.
of course,
It's the voices in the
I'm
head,
the
the
only
doubt.
one who
Yeah.
hears my own lies.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to believe them because you're
Mm-hmm.
the only one who hears them. So he's like, Erica, if I know anything about you, I know you can do this, and you just need to go to a studio and record.
Yeah, because at this point he already knows you know how to ask good questions. Because I'm sure you were the first to raise your hand in that Q&A portion.
Yes,
You're
yes.
like asking good questions this whole time.
He's just like, yes, Erica.
Yeah, right. He's like, just go get yourself in a studio. You're gonna be just fine.
So he said that, right? And
Yeah,
so I call Sonia. I'm like,
yeah,
hey, you wanna meet me at the studio tomorrow? She's like, yes.
yeah.
And so then there you go. I just take action because he told me what to do.
No, that is perfect. I think about it now that you're saying that, and so I went from high ticket to then I was coaching,
Hmm.
but how I got into podcasting was, you see, because that wasn't the offer we were selling at first. It was just direct to camera reels. The way I got into podcasting is we would do these events. Well, we still do them. In fact, you should come to the next one. It's in July, and Ed Milet will be there. But WealthCon. So every quarter we had WealthCon, and I think it was in July of 2023. We were hosting WealthCon, and we decided we were going to set up a little podcast outside in the hallway. Okay, and my boss was like, I want you to interview people. And then, as you're interviewing them, you can see if Pineda Media would be a good fit. Like, it'll be perfect. It's kind of like a sales call in a sense, right? So I said, okay, well, sat down, I started interviewing people, and I just loved it, and that is how I got into podcasting. Like, again, it just happened. And so I think there is so much truth to like, just throw yourself into it and see. You're either going to be like, okay, I'm into this, or I'm not. But you're going to know so much faster than if you contemplate.
You have to take action.
Yeah.
And you can't collect the data until you actually make the move.
Totally.
And I think that is where growth lies. So, oh my gosh. So now we are talking about transformation.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's talk about you transforming people, because I mean, I can see you absolutely transform. I'm being transformed from this conversation right now.
I love it. Me too.
So, how do you help people transform?
So, well, let's talk about like Sonia, for instance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is our mutual friend, and I met her in the very beginning of my days at Pineda. And she was just, she's just got like incredible energy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like it, really. It's like if she's in the room, you know it, you feel it, it's vibrant. You don't know. It's like at first when you meet her, you don't know what to feel. Do I like it? Do I not like it? I don't know. But I mean, I'm elevated. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, when I met her, I just loved her. I loved her energy, everything. And then, she started creating content and it was great. And then I started to get to know her more and I discovered it's like, no wonder she has great energy. She's done all of this work and, specifically on energy, faith, all of these different things. And she loves to talk about love, loves it. And of course, and I love that too. And at the time, like I didn't have my boyfriend that I'm with now. And I was very intentional about the type of relationship I would be in next
Mhm.
because I hadn't been successful with that, up to this point in my life. So I was like, I'm going to get super intentional. So we would talk about that. And then I'm like, I really feel like this is your thing. Like, you're so good at this. And so then she leaned into it because she was a little bit resistant to it at first. Like, what, because she has a tax company.
Mhm.
And, but I'm like, that doesn't light you up. That's just something you do. But this like lights you up.
Mhm.
And once she tapped into it, I feel like, I mean, it has just been amazing. Like her YouTube, she's really getting intentional now. But the content is so much better because it's something that she's passionate about.
Mhm.
And that is really what is necessary because you can achieve results just like you. You can get the sales, you can be successful, but to have it be like just movement style, like you're not just selling stuff, like you're creating movement. This is like impact.
Mhm.
That has to come like from your soul.
Yeah.
And so if you love selling because you love communication, it's not that you love selling, you
Mhm.
love learning people, you love psychology.
It's so fun.
So that's I don't even remember what your question was. Oh, transformations. That was one of them. And then there was another one. This one was I mean, I have a lot, but he's a real estate investor and engineer. Okay. And when he first started working with me, oh my God, he was getting so frustrated. He's like literally threw his phone. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I was like, just let's take a deep breath. We're going to come back to it. Because it's so uncomfortable talking to a camera.
Mhm.
So we took a deep breath, came back, and he had grown up. His mother she's very intuitive and she does like readings. Now I know this is controversial if you're a Christian, right? But I personally, I in many cases I feel like it's just another form of prayer. It depends on how this is being looked at or I guess performed, these different types of readings, if you will. But long story short, he had these angel cards. Some call them tarot cards, but really they were, I mean, angel cards. And he was really good at reading people's energy with these angel cards.
Mhm.
And I said, what if you just talked about that? And, because he had given me some insight and it was like really helped me. I felt much better.
Mhm.
And I felt like it was coming from a very good place. I didn't think it was evil by any means. And so anyway, he leaned into that and his content did much better because it was true and authentic to him.
Mhm.
And so he wanted to give up when he was trying to be someone he wasn't.
Mhm.
But once he just accepted, this is who I am.
Mhm.
People meet me in real life, they're going to see the side of me. So why wouldn't I just show that online?
Yeah.
But you see, we think we have to show up as someone else, but you don't.
Sometimes who you are is exactly what people need.
It's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
So that was another one that was really beautiful. And he ended up, he raised like $300,000 in, I think, like a month through his Instagram, had less than 2,000 followers. He ended up speaking on stage at WealthCon
Mhm.
after leaning into this. And yeah, he's just an incredible person. And then I had another guy that did, he's in sales, solar sales.
Mhm.
And what we discovered with his content was his door knocking videos were doing really well. Like he would record these live videos. And so I'm like, you got to do more of that because
Mhm.
people like to see you in action. Well, I think it's because of his ability to connect with people instead of being transactional. He's very much about the person. And it's like everybody shouldn't be sold. It depends on each unique situation. And so he started doing more of that and it really worked. And now he's really leaning into, and he is not only great at sales, but he is great at understanding people and the psychology. He
Mhm.
loves Tony Robbins. He
Oh,
loves
right.
transformation. So
Yeah.
he's talking about that more now. And it is really, I mean, it's been great to watch. But again, that's like leaning into who he is, where his mind wants to tell him, oh, I'm not going to be respected as this alpha sales guy if I talk about Tony Robbins and, you know, from the heart selling,
Mhm.
when that's not true. That's
Yeah.
just something we tell ourselves.
I think when you can help, also, I notice in sales too, it's about connecting the dots for people,
Mm-hmm.
showing them the way and how it's really going to benefit them.
Yeah.
And, selling real estate it's difficult because, I mean, it is high ticket sales.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, there's 19,000 licensees here in Las Vegas, 74%, don't sell any more than one home a year.
Yeah, like me. Like I'm licensed, but I don't do it.
Yeah, but
I just refer it out.
yeah, but you have a whole different business.
Yeah, now that's what I've discovered. Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought for many years that was going to be, and maybe this is like where you're at too right now, that you think that that was your thing, but maybe that was just a step to the next
I
thing.
realized that I would never would have met my life coach if I didn't get into real estate because I
Mm-hmm.
never would have met Nicole, who was the other realtor who introduced me to her. And
Yeah,
Amelia set me free. She set me free through God.
I love that.
And everything that I've ever wanted is finally coming true. But it took leading me to belief and then
Mm-hmm.
taking me from belief to faith.
Yeah, I think that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I was gonna say something I forgot.
I know that happens.
Oh man. Um, oh yeah, so let's say somebody wants to become like an authority figure. They want to
Mm-hmm.
start speaking on stages
Yeah.
and they want to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that?
Start speaking today on your phone. Make more videos. If you want to be an authority figure, but you can't show up and post one video every day, then that would be the starting point. Like it's
Mhm.
so easy to do that, and then go to networking events. You really put yourself in positions where, I mean, there are so many ways. It is just shocking now. Like you can tell people, hey, if you have a school community or you have any community of any kind, if you need a guest speaker, I'm happy to do it. Like that's another great way. Start a podcast. I mean, there's just so many ways that you can do that now.
What are people looking for when they're looking for these guest speakers?
I mean, I think that in my experience, I can only speak from my lens. It's building relationships, and most people, a lot of people don't ask to, you know, to do that. But I think, okay, let me rewind. This is why having a personal brand is so important, because then rather than you going out and seeking, sorry,
It's
plant
okay.
placement was a little off. Note to self with podcast setup: don't put the plant so close to your guest that it hits them in the head. No, if you build a brand, then people will come to you. They
Mhm.
will ask you to speak. You don't
Mhm.
have to go looking for it. Everything becomes easier because you're just putting out your message. And then it will resonate with the people that it resonates with, and then opportunities will present themselves.
Mhm.
So that to me is essential. Then as you're building relationships, if you meet someone that's somebody that you want to be a part of their community, or this is like, you feel you have that message, that voice that says, I want to be a part of this, ask them. I have asked people about podcasting with me that maybe, they have much larger following than me.
Mhm.
And maybe some people would be like, why would you even do that? They're not going to do that with you. Well, no, I just believe they will.
Mhm.
And then sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But I still ask. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, it says in the Bible, James says very clearly, you have not because you ask not.
That I think that's a real big lesson there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start asking, because the worst thing is they say no or they don't reply or whatever. Like, put it out there.
You don't take me as someone who's afraid of rejection.
I'm not at this stage of my life. I think, you're afraid of rejection when you haven't had much of it, when you've been playing it safe.
Hmm.
But what you learn is, the older you get and the more risk that you take, is like, go get rejected. I mean, you're just going to get back up and do something else. Like, it's not that bad. We make it worse than it is in
Yeah.
our mind.
Yeah. I think too, if somebody rejects you and you get back up and you try again and they still say no, sometimes I keep trying and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'll get a yes, but usually that door was never meant to be opened.
Exactly. Like, I
And
don't usually go back for round two if they say no.
yeah, I always do.
I'm like, I guess it wasn't meant to be. But
I
maybe,
I tend to get sometimes I get a yes on the round 2.
yeah.
And because they see like they think like, "Oh man, she's not going away."
She's not gonna. Okay, I'll say yes.
So,
Yeah,
I'll even check in on leads that reach out to me. I'm like, "Hey,
yeah.
how's everything going with your agent?" And they're like, "Well, it's not going great." I'm like, "Well," and they say to themselves, "Well, we're thinking about trying again with her." I'm like, why would
Hmm.
you work with the same professional who did not get you the results you want?
Yeah,
And that will eventually happen again the second time.
yeah. What's funny now that you mentioned that is, again, going back to really posting consistently, is I remember having those conversations, but they'd be following me on Instagram, right? And so they would just see me because I would document my day with clients, doing this, doing that. So I was constantly in their mind. And then when something didn't work out with another agent, then they would reach out through Instagram
Mhm.
because they were just seeing me. So
Yeah.
again, another good reason to just show up consistently,
Yeah.
because you think nothing's happening. See, the problem is we want instant gratification too. You post the one video, and then you think you're going to get a lead. Like, dude, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
This is you showing up every day
Mhm.
and building relationships. It's like, eh, I mean, it would be like if you went on a date and then, oh, they don't want to marry me yet. Like, you just met them.
Right.
Like, they have to get to know you.
Mhm.
But nobody wants to put in the work to have someone get to know them.
It's amazing what you can learn from a stranger.
Oh, it's incredible.
And so I go in like every conversation I have with somebody, even if it's like if it's like a surface level conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's probably not going to go anywhere. But if there's context in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, I always learn one thing.
Right.
And so I tell myself, I'm going to have a conversation with all these people and I'm going to learn one thing. I will
Mm-hmm.
not leave this conversation until I learn one thing. It has empowered me so much. And you know what? Because I keep diving in and
Mm-hmm.
I show the curiosity, they feel special.
Right.
They feel that, hey, she's interested in what I have to say. And I'm like, yes, genuinely I
Yeah.
am because I have to learn something.
And how do you think people are able to get people to feel that way without, in a conversation? Like, let's say you're not having a conversation, you're just making video content. What do you think it takes in the video content for that person that's watching it to feel like they can open up to you?
So I engage with them. So I'll just tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
And so um yesterday I posted a story segment about an experience I had with a listing agent.
Okay.
And I basically explained, like, I don't think I would ever do business with someone who talks like this,
Mm-hmm.
saying, so basically I was showing a home and I, I'm working with these attorneys, they're trial attorneys, they're moving their entire life here from California, right? So I had this conversation with this listing agent and he's like, well, how many homes have you shown them? I'm like, well, I think in total I've shown them only about 20.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, 20 homes over the course of like 3 weeks is not that much. And he says, I never show more than 6.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, um, that's a huge disservice to somebody who's trying to get familiar with an area
Yeah.
and who's moving their entire life. It was like after he said that, his demeanor changed, like
Mm-hmm.
I was less than him. But then I was like, you know what? This is why selling real estate for me is not hard
Mm-hmm.
because I'm
Because you
willing
care.
Because I'm willing to go that extra mile.
Yeah.
I'm willing to put in the work because I
Mhm.
give the service that I would expect.
Mhm.
If I was to go buy an investment property in Tennessee, which actually is in the works right now,
Mhm.
the real estate agent I'm gonna hire, you show me all the things that I want to see and the things that you think I need to see,
Right.
and you will have my forever loyalty.
Mhm.
I would never hire somebody who would not do the same for me as I would do for them.
So I think this is huge, and I think this is where people get stuck with magnetic personal branding is they want to be going back to authenticity. It's like you want people to just be drawn to you, but you're just telling them surface level stuff.
Mhm.
You're showing them 6 houses. You know, they need to see 20, which
Yeah.
means they need to see all sides of you. They need to not just know what you do, but they need to know who you are, what do you value,
Mhm.
what do you stand against,
Yeah.
like this,
Mhm.
because that is how we make decisions on who we're going to surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
Not from you being like, here's the $7 million house I just sold, like, and I only had to, do this, this, and this. Like, want to hire me? Like, no, I don't.
Yeah. So, I think doing like the absolute bare minimum, you cannot really learn and understand and withhold. You can't really learn market and product knowledge by doing the bare minimum. You have to go above and beyond. And that is why people hire me because I have so much market and product knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you how a home is built. I can tell you which builders build a terrible product. I can tell you which builder has the most construction defect lawsuits in the Clark County.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I am genuinely curious on
Yeah.
which lawsuits are open right now. Because, I just like to go for fun. I'd like to see who's being sued.
Yeah.
Like maybe I'll cut this part out, but I like to see what court
You
cases
like
are
to know what's
opened.
going on. Yeah. But going back to sales, let's go back to this for a minute. Um, what is the reason someone buys though? Or chooses you? Okay. Like why would they work with you? It's not because of your product knowledge.
It's because of the questions I ask them.
Yeah, right? Like I mean, I'm asking as I'm saying this, like, is that because the main reason someone will take action or decide to go with you, like if we use this for real estate, sign the buyer's broker agreement or sign up for your high ticket program, like it's not typically your expertise that is the main driver,
It's not. So,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So here's the reasons why people hire me. Because of my certainty, my confidence, and my competence.
Okay, this is so good. So I think certainty is first, right?
100%. Because if you're not certain in what
Mm-hmm.
you have, no one's going to believe you.
But the certainty gives you the confidence
Mhm.
and then the
The
competence.
competence,
But
yeah,
people have it backwards when it comes to branding, I think.
I
They go
think.
competence. They think they have to start with competence and that will give them confidence. And some people say that. I disagree. I think you've got to be certain in your calling, which that requires the faith because
Mhm.
you can't know what that is if you're not connected to your creator.
Mhm.
And then you have that certainty. This is why I was created. This is the message I'm going to share, whether it be selling, communicating, whatever it is. Your transformation, your journey, like your life experience, and then it just comes to you.
Yeah,
You become more competent, you become better at podcasting, you become better at real estate. All those things follow. But I don't think competence is first.
it's not first, it's certainty. If
Mm-hmm.
you are not certain in what you're offering and believing in yourself, nobody will buy from you.
Right.
Confidence, you have to be knowledgeable
Mm-hmm.
if you fail to prepare, if you if you how does that go?
Like where you opportunity. I
If
think
you
is it the one where it's like opportunity is going to present itself, but if you're not prepared
no,
or
if
no.
you
Oh, you
if you fail to prepare, you prepare.
fail to plan.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
So thank you. Okay, we'll start over. I was like, help me.
I was like, what are the words?
Yeah, if you fail to plan, you
Yes.
plan to fail.
Right.
So for me, and that goes back to the product and market knowledge
Mm-hmm.
because when I can show certainty and then confidence and my competence, I think, and I guess you could interchange competence with confidence, but those definitely have to be in there.
I agree. I just think that the order, like the path to get there, I think is people have it backwards. This is just my belief because I feel like first you have to have, I mean it makes sense. First you have to have the belief. And which in order to have the belief, you don't have to be competent yet. You just
Mhm.
have to believe that you will be,
Yes.
which most people won't do.
Yeah,
So
you
they go to the competence first. Well, once I have the certification, once I have this, once I have enough followers, once I have a, whatever, there's 1,000 things.
yeah.
Then I can be confident and I can show up. Like, no, actually not.
I am
First,
certain I can do this.
yes, I'm
Mhm.
certain. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like, I am certain I love podcasting. When I sat in that chair that day a couple of years ago, I am certain this is my calling because the way I feel when I'm
Mhm.
doing this, I don't know how I'm going to be. Like, even to this day, like, I am certain. Don't ask me how. People might think I'm crazy. I'm going to interview Oprah, Lewis Howes, Ed Milet,
I love
Jen
that.
Gottlieb. I don't know how, but I'm
I
going
love
to.
Jen. I bought her book. It
I'm
was
just going
incredible.
to. Like, it's happening.
Mhm.
And people will be like, you're a psychopath, right? But I don't care. Like, I already have proof that this concept works. Like, that is when you are become even more faithful because you see it happen.
Albert Einstein said, "Imagination is the preview. Imagination is a preview of life's coming
Oh,
attractions."
I love that so much.
And that is one of the highest tiers is imagination that
Mm-hmm.
you can sell to someone. When you can get a human who is also naturally an artisan because we are made in
Mm-hmm.
God's image to imagine the life that they want, anything is possible.
I agree.
So I think you should always hold on to that imagination.
Yeah.
So another thing that, and this is something that I would I would love to include in the sales academy is the power of the pause. When I started
Mm-hmm.
pausing and I allowed for silence to fill the room while I'm in this dialogue with my
Mm-hmm.
potential client, I had a higher conversion rate.
I believe that. That is a hard one to do.
Yeah.
You
So
have to be very conscious of this.
I had to have I had I began I now have a better relationship with silence
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it gives the other person a chance to digest what you just said. And when they can see that you're confident and
Certain.
you're comfortable with the silence and that does not make you uncomfortable, it makes them comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They know like it's just part of the certainty.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the it's yeah, it's kind of part of all that. Like you are so comfortable in the awkward silence. And because you're comfortable with it, they're not uncomfortable with it. And
Yeah.
now they begin to trust you. And they also know you're listening.
That's good.
People just want to
Yeah.
be heard.
Totally.
Yeah, they want to be heard. So the power of the pause has been huge. My in when I'm qualifying someone when they actually come to the office before they sign a buyer broker agreement, actually no. So when I get on the call with them before they come to the office, I ask them usually about 15 questions.
Okay.
And the questions will look like, why do you want to move here?
Mm-hmm.
What's the intention? Who is here that you're trying to move to, or what are you trying to move away
Mm-hmm.
from? I want to know so specifically why you're doing the thing.
Yeah. What's their motivation?
hmm
Yeah.
And so by the time we're done with our our 30-minute call, they have more clarity because I,
Mm-hmm.
I I brought the answers out from them. I
Yeah.
I have still yet to meet a realtor who's going to ask somebody 15 intentional questions.
Yeah. Well, because it's really not just about the house. Like, I just bought a place, what was it, like a year ago.
hmm
And because I went through a divorce, all of these things, right? And if you just asked me what kind of house like I'm looking for, that wouldn't have been enough information. Because for me, it's like I have to be in the zip code because of my kids. I don't want to take them out of this, the schools and just different things like a gate for safety and you know how it is. There's so many different motivations. It's not just the house.
hmm
Like you've got to go deeper.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll even get down to the nitty-gritty and ask them how many pets they have.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say,
Yeah.
"Well, why?" And I'm like, "Well, some HOAs have a pet restriction.
Right. So
Some
you would need to
HOAs
know.
some HOAs have a weight at a weight
Weight
at
limit
a
or
weight
something.
limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like um aggregate
What's that?
an aggregated weight limit.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
even know
So
that.
like, you can't go past a
Yeah.
certain weight. Some HOAs have a breed restriction.
Mhm.
Some HOAs have a foreclosure clause. So if you're a rule breaker, maybe an HOA is not for you.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'll go that deep just to better understand them. And then by the time that they come to the buyer broker, to the actual formal
Mhm.
consultation, they are so comfortable because they know that I know almost everything about what they want and why.
Yeah, which is so important.
Yeah.
So,
The house is like the last thing people are thinking about. They're thinking about the lifestyle they're going to get
totally.
by making this move. Like, I focus and
Which
I
is similar to sales. Like
yes.
if you're taking someone on a sales journey,
Yes.
you have to get them to see the transformation end result, not the actual thing that you're
Yeah.
going to teach them. It's not about the program or the it's not about, oh, you're going to get X number of followers. No, it's about who you become in the process.
Mhm. I never talk about the process. I just talk about the payoff.
Mhm.
I just talk about because, sometimes the process can be grueling, and when you tell somebody the hell they're gonna have to go
Yeah.
through,
Right.
they probably aren't gonna do it. But if you can paint this beautiful picture for them on what the
Mhm.
possibility of their life can look like, that is where they start to imagine things, and they have this beautiful
Mhm.
picture in their head of what life could be like. When you can I think possibility is so powerful.
It is, and that's something I think I know for me, that's something I do with myself every day.
Mhm.
I imagine the future. I'm grateful for the present
Mhm.
and the past, but I imagine that future self because we constantly have to rewire that subconscious programming of everything up to, I'm 30, almost 38 years old. Like I have to constantly be rewiring. So many people are where they are and they never get to where they want to go because they don't reprogram. You have to reprogram yourself.
It is a daily habit.
Yeah. I mean, that's like been one of my best lessons too. Like I write on my mirrors,
Mhm.
just different things, to
That's really
reprogram.
smart.
And I don't really watch TV anymore. I listen to YouTube videos like motivational stuff or podcasts because I am just in constant reprogram mode. I'm like brainwashing myself all the time.
You know what I learned from Myron Golden this morning?
Ooh, what?
Think like a genius, speak like a third grader.
I love that. Yes, so true with marketing too. Like
Mhm.
nobody knows your fancy terminology but you.
Yeah, and people, if you I forget how he said it. God, he's such a great teacher.
Oh, I know.
But he basically said, if the person that you're trying to market to doesn't understand, you've
Mm-hmm.
lost them.
Totally.
And the only way to impress them is to get them to understand your message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's so true. I also think that that's why what I've seen is when you go too much on trying to showcase your expertise.
Hmm.
I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying it's not important. You should. But when it's all about that,
Yeah.
then it's not about them. That's about you.
Yeah.
You're trying to say, look at me, look at what I've done, hire me, I'm the best. That is not how they're going to make a decision. You you have to put yourself in their mind.
Hmm.
And that is not how we select who we're going to work with. We just don't.
And that's kind of why I hired Omar because he hit all my principles and my
Mm-hmm.
preferences, where most people just hit my principles.
Yep. There you go.
He's God-fearing. He's a family man. He believes that your message is powerful
Mm-hmm.
and it should be shared carefully, depending
Yeah.
on what
So it wasn't because he said, look at my 17-step framework and look
Mm-mm.
at this and look at that. No, it was because you resonated with his values.
Yeah. Yeah. And during this time, I had no idea he was the pastor of City Light.
Mm-hmm.
Can I use the restroom really quick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Are you okay? I don't even know. We might be at time to do like, I thought Joseph was going to come back in. It's 1:30.
Oh my goodness.
When did we start?
11:30?
Yeah, so we are. We can do the intro, or you can ask me whatever other ones. But yeah, go to the bathroom first. Um, I told him to come back because I don't. This is a thing about me. I don't like to look down.
I agree.
So, but most people have like those timers
That's fine.
that are above you.
I'll use the restroom and then we'll do the
Okay.
intros. have it done at 2:30, but we can do the
2:30. Oh no, I just booked the call or booked the room. I just like to book it for buffer, so I'm not like being.
That's smart.
But I don't need the entire 3 hours. You know.
So should we should do
yeah. If there was anything else you wanted to cover, let's do that, and then we'll just do our intros.
I don't think so.
You had your final questions or something, didn't you?
Oh yes.
Something like you're doing for.
The conversation was so good. I totally forgot.
I know. Well, that's why I'm like, I don't even. Yeah, I don't ever really prepare.
Yeah.
Just let it be what it is.
That's very Joe Rogan. That's very good actually, because I think that's why his episodes are so good because they're so raw.
Yeah, because it's just like you don't know where it's gonna go, but then it usually goes somewhere really good. So.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Whew, yeah.
Okay.
So
it's hot in here too.
It is. That's all right. Okay.
All right.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it Kate or Katie?
Well, it's my family calls me Katie.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else calls me Kate, so either one doesn't matter.
I'll say Kate because it says create with Kate.
All right.
Kate, there's just been so much valuable information that you have just given to me and the audience. Now, when we wrap, I'm always so bad at closing and intros.
I feel like you get better with time, just like anything.
Yeah, I hope so.
So,
okay. So now at the end of every podcast, I like to ask 3 questions, and of course, this is to help the audience intentionally improve their life. Now, first question is, where do you see your life and business in the next 5 years, and where do you see your life and business in the next 5 years, and do you foresee it impacting people's lives?
Yes, say that one more time, but don't hold up the paper. I'm just afraid it might be covering your face.
All right.
But maybe I would even just say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because that's easy to remember. Right? Or do you want to
I like the impact. Okay. So where do you see yourself in the
It's been a long podcast, right?
So where do you see yourself in the next where do you see your life?
We have to shake it off. Okay.
You're so cute.
I'm like, this is fun, isn't it?
It's just hard not to. You're a hard person not to love.
Good. I'm glad.
So, where do you see your life and business in the next 5 years, and how will it impact people's lives?
I love that question. I think that is so important for everyone to ask themselves every year, right? So in 5 years, I will be speaking on stages primarily. I will have a best-selling book, and I will be podcasting most of my time outside of speaking. And that will be my form of coaching. So it will just kind of transition into doing that full time. That's what I really love. I love being with people at conferences and really just getting to know them in that environment. I just love the energy. And so, yeah, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be traveling a lot because I'll be going to all these different conferences. I'll be bringing my kids with me. I will have a homeschool teacher that I can decide their education.
I love that.
And they will be pursuing their passions and their dreams. So yes, they will be getting educated, but they will also be figuring out what they're called to do, and I will be able to support that. And I will be in a thriving relationship, and hopefully the one, I'm in currently. And yeah, and so he'll have his kids, he'll be with me. He also wants to do more speaking, more podcasting, all of that. So that's really the big vision, is in 5 years to be doing that full time.
How will it impact people's lives?
Well, I'll be able to reach a lot more people. So the way that I'm impacting lives currently, which is helping people to believe in themselves and what makes them unique. Oftentimes it's the things that we think are our flaws. So it's helping people to realize that that's actually your superpower, and then sharing that with the world, because it's all a ripple effect. So the more people that I can impact in that way, then they're going to turn around and impact more people. And then we can just make this world a better place by doing so. So same thing I'm doing now, but just on a larger scale.
I love that because healed people heal people and
Mm-hmm.
people hurt people.
Exactly.
So by you doing that and spreading the goodness, you're actually curing the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all are, right?
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
it's beautiful.
you specifically because you want to help people who have a profound and quality message.
Yeah, and I also want people to know, like, I don't care who you are. If you are living and breathing, I don't care what your past or how broken you think you are or how much shame you have. You have that in you. That's why God created you. And so I want you to hear that message and know that that is also available to you. You
Hmm.
just need someone to look at you and say, I see you, not for everything you've been through and all the mistakes that you've made. And like, you are worthy of whatever that desire is in your heart. And people
Mm.
just they need to look up. Like, we all want to be seen, but nobody's looking up.
Mm.
So,
Hmm.
like, how about we get outside of ourselves for a minute to
Hmm.
see? And this is in any place, anywhere. I mean, at the grocery store, look at the person that's ringing you up in the
Hmm.
eyes.
Hmm.
You know how many people don't look people in the
Because
eye?
they have a story.
They hide. People are so ashamed of who they are. They can't even look you in the eye. Do
Yeah.
you know the impact of, like, you just looking? You could look at a homeless person. You don't even have to say anything to them. But if you just look them in the eye like they're a human being, instead
Hmm.
of walking past them and turning your head because you don't
Hmm.
want them to ask you for money, what if you just smiled at them?
I learned so much from homeless people actually because they see the world in a different lens than I
Mm-hmm.
do. And oftentimes their lens is clearer than mine.
Well, yeah, because they are less distracted, right?
They they see the goodness and the ugliness very
Mm-hmm.
clearly. Wow. Well, I think you're going to have a major impact on people, and I can't wait to see you just get out there and just really reach these people so they can spread the goodness.
Me
I
too.
love it.
I
Don't
feel the same way about you too. I'm excited for this sales training
I'm
in
so,
sales academy, right?
I'll probably cut
Sales
this out of
academy.
the camera, but
Why?
because it's not even like it's just a thought right now.
But that's where it starts.
I know, but who
Maybe this is why
but
you ask God. He put you in this room and put a camera on you.
I know, right?
You know?
You know what's funny is like this, and I'll cut this out, but I want to say this to you. This whole podcast thing was just a dream 3 months ago. It was a dream, and here I am, and
You're doing it,
I'm doing it,
and you're
and
really good at
I'm like,
it.
I like
Do you
it.
know how many people I have, like, been in podcasts with? I can't even. I don't honestly. I don't know so many. Like, even though it's only been a couple years, like, that I've had my own, or I've had my own podcast for 1 year, but I've been doing this with people for 2 years. You ask really good questions,
Thank you.
and I'm not just saying that. You ask really good. That's a gift. That
Okay,
is a true gift, and there's a reason that this is happening.
I
Like,
love
I
that.
think I'm just confirmation that you're in the right spot. This is what you should be doing. Don't stop, because you are really good.
Thank you so much. That's what I needed to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the second question is, I might fumble this one because I have to actually like dial in my questions better.
Okay.
So, knowing what you know today, what would you tell Kate from 5 years ago that, hold on, so sorry.
Yeah.
So, knowing what you know today, what would Kate today tell
Mm-hmm.
Kate 5 years ago to about being intentional in building the life and the business that you have now?
So I don't know. I think the only thing I would say is continue to be intentional with your relationship with God,
Hmm.
and don't worry about the rest, because there's so much freedom in. See, the problem is we think there's a right and a wrong way. There really isn't a right and a wrong. And when it comes to pursuing your dreams and finding your calling, because it's all necessary. Like all the wrong things. Like I don't think there's a wrong thing. I think you just have the relationship because that's your foundation. And he reveals to you the next step and the next step and the next step. And that's it. That's the only plan you need. And everything else will follow.
Do you think that your relationship with God allows you to move forward despite your fears?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think first you have the relationship, then you get the imagination.
Hmm.
Like that's how the imagination happens. That's how the creativity happens. If you're trying to do it on your own, forget about it. And I mean, you might have moments, right? But you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. You have to believe that. So, yeah, you have the relationship, then you have the imagination, and then you have to have the discernment to make the decisions. Because any successful person or anybody that I know that's doing what they love, they had to make a lot of decisions that other people around them didn't understand. But that's where that relationship comes into play. This is not for them to understand. That is your plan that God gave you, and
Hmm.
He put that in your heart. Now you have to have the conviction to go and pursue it. But you can't have that if you don't have the relationship.
And it starts with faith.
I really think that's the number one thing. And I started to have that 5 years ago. Um, and so if I were to, rewind time and tell myself something, that's what I'd say. I'd be like, you're on the right track here. You just keep leaning into that relationship and don't worry about anything else.
So, obviously, going through this journey, you've heard a lot of noise.
Mm-hmm.
How now, what would you tell yourself 5 years ago to eliminate the noise?
The higher you rise, the more noise there's going to be. So your faith has to be louder.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that. Like, it's never going to go away. You think it's going to get easier. See, the problem is we think it's going to get easier when we achieve more, when we get to where we want to go. It doesn't get easier, it's harder, but you get stronger and
Hmm.
you have to go through that to be more resilient. You think you're going to have massive influence if you haven't gone through anything? Or
True.
you don't know how to take a stand for what you believe in. See,
Hmm.
everybody wants a strong personal brand, but they can't even say what they actually believe. They can't speak the truth.
Hmm.
Like, no. Like, you have to have the relationship. He'll give you the strength, he'll give you the conviction, and then you can pursue it.
You know what I learned from Jen on a challenge call?
Hmm.
New levels, new devils.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, the higher up you go, the more challenging it can be.
Hmm.
Okay. My third question, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for, I mean, not to have it, I mean, it all goes back to that. I'm grateful to have that relationship and for every person that has honestly hurt me and all the, I mean, I guess I'm grateful for all the pain because that woke me up.
Hmm.
If I didn't have it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I mean, it truly, like, that's what propelled me to take action, was like being in so much pain that I was like, there has to be a reason for this.
You wanted the cure of the pain.
Mm-hmm. And that's
That's
when the relationship with God got stronger.
that's beautiful. Yeah, God kills a lot of he cures a lot of life's illnesses. And I think just having that faith with him and then just talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
and he does answer.
Totally.
Maybe he doesn't answer in the way that we'd like him to, but he does respond.
Yeah. And you have to be patient. I think, yeah, we want things so quickly. We want to know that this is what we're supposed to be doing. And like, you don't know. You don't have all the answers, but you just have to keep taking one step and focus on making an impact instead of just like, you know how we make decisions? You probably did this before too. We make decisions based on money.
Yeah.
Well, I have to do this because I have to pay my bills. So I have to do this one thing. But when you learn possibilities,
Mhm.
then you learn like, well, is that true? Or did you just tell yourself that? Like, is there another possibility of how you can make money?
I love this. This is rewiring.
Yeah, because that's what, but so many of us do this. I used to do it. Well, I can't do this because I don't have a college degree. I used to tell myself that all the time. Or I can't do this because I don't have this certification or that certification. When none of that matters. I mean,
Mm.
unless you're like a brain surgeon, there's a million things that you can do in today's, world with technology and everything we have access to.
Mhm.
That's just in your head.
I think we feel the best when we create things for other people. Like when you take raw ingredients and then you put it together and you make a meal for someone, how
Yeah.
amazing do you feel that you made it?
Well, I wish I felt more amazing cooking. I need to get better at that. But yeah, I do feel amazing when I help someone put the pieces together with their life. Yeah. I'm like,
You
I need to get better in the kitchen though.
well,
Um,
that's it's a skill. I was
yeah,
I was very bad at cooking until I got good.
right. Just like anything.